Deep in the Peruvian desert, a 900-year-old Nazca geoglyph visible only from the air was deliberately defaced. The perpetrator used a backhoe. The target, a spiral symbol so precise that modern surveyors couldn't replicate it without GPS. Carbon dating places its creation 3 centuries before the Inca Empire even existed. 3 weeks later, a fire destroyed the research station where Dr. Elena Vasquez had catalogued 47 similar formations. The police called it an accident. Dr. Vasquez called it something else, a pattern. This is the story of 6 symbols that may have foretold the end of civilizations and the systematic effort to ensure they would be forgotten. In 1987, an American archaeologist named Robert Bates was excavating a pre-dynastic Egyptian tomb when he discovered 6 stone tablets that shouldn't exist. The tablets depicted geometric patterns found nowhere else in ancient Egypt, but identical symbols appeared in Mohenjo-Daro on Easter Island and carved into the cliff faces of Göbekli Tepe. Carbon dating placed these locations across 3 continents and thousands of years apart. The scholarly consensus: coincidence. But Bates noted something the peer reviewers ignored. Each symbol appeared exclusively in settlements that collapsed within 2 generations of their creation. He published his findings in a journal that folded 6 months later. The tablets vanished from museum records in 1994. 130, 215. Clue 1. Inquisitive. The first symbol was a 7-pointed spiral contained within a broken circle. Dr. Bates found it carved into slate tablets buried beneath a pharaoh's palace. Yet Egyptian iconography never used 7-pointed stars. The spiral's center contained microscopic etchings visible only under electron microscopy, coordinates. Not modern latitude and longitude, but something older, a system that would only be decoded in 1967 by Stanisław Skrołachewski, a Polish mathematician working on lunar gravitational patterns. Those coordinates pointed to a location in Antarctica that was under 2 miles of ice until approximately 9,500 BCE. The Egyptian tablets, somehow, recorded a place that had been ice-free for 6,000 years before the pharaohs. When Bates attempted to verify his findings through the British Museum's archives, he discovered that 17 similar tablets had been deaccessioned in 1923, removed from collection, and donated to private buyers whose names were sealed. The museum's registrar wrote only, "Contents not suitable for public display." The 17 tablets had surfaced by 2019, appearing at Christie's auctions, Geneva. Each was purchased by the same shell company registered in Delaware. When journalists attempted to trace ownership, the company dissolved. The symbols on those 17 tablets matched Bates's 7-pointed spiral, but with variations. Some spirals turned counterclockwise. Some had 8 points instead of 7. Each variation corresponded to a civilization that had experienced total societal collapse: the Indus Valley, the Minoans, the Western Roman Empire. In 2019, the Smithsonian Institution quietly convened a panel to review anomalous archaeological findings from the colonial era. The panel's scope was limited to items discovered before 1950. Panel member Dr. Margaret Okonkwo, a specialist in symbolic mathematics, noticed something that previous researchers had dismissed. The second symbol, an interlocking chevron pattern, appeared on Sumerian cylinder seals dated to 2600 BCE and again on Moche goldwork from 700 CE. The pattern wasn't decorative. It was a formula. Specifically, it described a mathematical relationship between population density and resource depletion. When Dr. Okonkwo applied the formula to 6 civilizations where the symbol appeared, the output matched historical records of their collapses with 94.3% accuracy. Her paper was submitted to the Journal of Archaeological Science. It was rejected without review. The third symbol was the most disturbing: a humanoid figure with no face, standing in a field of wheat, or so it appeared. Under spectral imaging, the wheat revealed itself as thousands of tiny characters, each representing a concept in Proto-Sumerian cuneiform. Dr. Okonkwo spent 3 years translating them. The text described a cyclical collapse model: civilizations rise, reach a population threshold, exhaust their aquifers, and vanish. The final line read, in her translation, "We who made this record watched our children starve. We carved this warning in a place where no one would find it until the next ones were ready to listen." The site where she found this symbol was erased from satellite imagery within 48 hours of her publication. The ground was bulldozed the following week. The archaeological establishment offered a simple explanation: convergent evolution. Independent cultures developed similar symbols because humans facing similar problems invented similar solutions. The Sumerians, Egyptians, and Moche all struggled with irrigation. Therefore, they all developed similar agricultural metaphors. This explanation appeared simultaneously in National Geographic, the BBC, and the New York Times science section within the same week. None of the articles mentioned Dr. Bates's original research, Dr. Okonkwo's translation, or the 17 tablets at Christie's. When queried, the publication said they had not encountered those sources. A Google search for Bates Egyptian tablets in 2020 returned 847,000 results. By 2023, it returned 14. But the mainstream explanation has a problem. Convergent evolution doesn't explain why the symbols appear in strict chronological order, oldest to newest, across a span of 12,000 years. It doesn't explain why the fourth symbol, a stylized tree with roots reaching downward, contains, encoded in its root structure, the complete genetic sequence of a plant species that wouldn't be sequenced by science until 2011. It doesn't explain why Dr. Bates's original field notes, stored in a climate-controlled archive at Yale, were destroyed in a plumbing failure that leaked seawater onto 1,927 file cabinets containing his unpublished manuscripts. The university offered no explanation for why seawater pipes existed near archival storage. Consider the possibility that something has been actively editing the archaeological record for millennia, not erasing civilizations but erasing their warnings. The 5 symbols we can still examine share a common trait. Each appears in contexts where the surrounding civilization had no written language. They are the only written records in their respective sites. Every other artifact is pottery, bone tools, traded goods. The symbols stand alone, uncontextualized, easily dismissed as decoration. This is not accidental, it is deliberate. The ancient civilizations that created these warnings understood that their descendants might not want to hear what they had to say. They hid the messages in plain sight, in places where only those who were already looking would find them. 645-8. Modern echo plus open question calm. Today, 6 satellites funded by the European Space Agency and 3 private aerospace companies are mapping the Göbekli Tepe Plateau with ground-penetrating radar. The preliminary results, leaked in 2023, suggest that less than 5% of the site has been excavated. Beneath the known pillars, there are chambers. In those chambers, the radar shows patterns, repeating, geometric, deliberate. The Turkish government has denied requests for expanded excavation, citing structural instability. The site remains closed to researchers. The question no one in authority is asking: what did the people who built Göbekli Tepe, the oldest human-made structure on Earth, find? So disturbing that they buried it under a hill and pretended it never existed? And why, 300 generations later, are we still trying to bury it again? Next episode, Tees. Next week on Phantom Atlas. The cartographer who disappeared, and the 700 maps he drew of places that don't exist. We'll examine a Dutch mapmaker from 1680 who drew coastlines for continents that wouldn't be, discovered for another 200 years, including Antarctica with coastlines that wouldn't be visible until satellite radar in 1995. Why did he draw what he drew, and why did his entire village burn to the ground 3 days after his death? Stay in the dark,